Greetings, greetings, family. Sister Shanice and Dr. Aboo in the house. How are you? How are you, family? Thank you so much for tuning in for another edition of the live Sister Shanice show with my fantastic panel lineup. Other panel members are going to be joining us shortly. So all being well, we should have another really interesting and insightful discussion today. And what a serious topic we have for discussion today. So I want to rise up for GP for being the first one to message us in the house. And he's saying, Nangadev, Somale, a greeting, Sister Shanice, and all the guests, and all of those in the chat as well. Wonderful, wonderful GP for being the first one in the house today. So we are live and direct to London town. We are expecting Leader Bandaka to be joining us very shortly. We are expecting Brother Jammers to be joining us shortly. We are also expecting this strong, our brother Prophet, to be joining us shortly as well. But as you can see, we have in the house none other than Dr. Aboo. How are you today, Dr. Aboo?
Vudum Empress, and Vudum to all the family in the chat room.
And how are you today?
Well, I'm up and down as usual, you know. Give thanks for life, you know.
Yes, indeed. From we up and down, everything all right. Yeah, is when we flat and we still and we can't move. That's when we're in problems. So today, family, oh, wow. We've got another very hot discussion and debate that we're going to be having with you today. A very serious one, actually, because, you know, it's about how we go forward as a people. And it's so important that we have these sort of discussions. And there are not many platforms and not many spaces that we can use as a people to, you know, have these sorts of deliberations. And there's always so much happening on a daily basis. And, you know, that is why we need to be keeping an eye on what's happening. I know everybody's focused on COVID at the moment. The UK's got another lockdown happening. My brother, you're in the UKKK right now. What's going on in the United Kingdom?
Well, see, sometimes you have to be like a hole in the wall. You understand, you know? Things happen to you, but not through you. You understand?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Enough things are going around you, but you're not making it impact you.
There's a lot of things going on, you know, and sometimes if you pay a lot of attention to that thing, we forgot about the thing that we're on.
I hear what you're saying. Yes. Yes. And it's important.
It's like we are going through a crisis. You understand, you know? And it should be a primary attention at this moment.
Yes.
But seasonal thing get in the way.
I hear that. Yes.
Yes. So again, it's another distraction.
We hear you, Dr. Aboo, and I'm pleased to say that we've been joined by our brother, Leader Bandaka. But your screen looks a bit clouded, my brother, Leader. Let me just ask you if you can just maybe clean the screen on your laptop, the camera bit. Let me just give you an opportunity to do that. So, yeah, we got our brother, Leader Bandaka, in the house. Just going to sort out his camera and then we'll bring him back in. But yes, brother Dr. Aboo, as you were saying, you know, it's, you know, there's the focus is on Xmas and whether people are going to be with their family or not and what the lockdown, you know, implications are for the family, when we really ought to be focused on our priorities and what's impacting on us as a people. So, you know, and COVID has actually stolen the limelight. And I was presented today with some information that had been brought to my attention via a YouTube video. And what we could see from that in terms of the record is that so far, as of the 18th of December, they're claiming that 112,807 people have been given the first round of the COVID vaccine. However, they're saying that 3,150 of those are now unable to perform normal daily activities or unable to work or require care from a doctor or a healthcare professional as a result of taking that vaccine. Wow, wow, wow. And those statistics, yes, we can see you much more clearly now, my brother. And those statistics are dreadful. But before we go into that anymore, let's welcome on board, as he takes himself off mute, our brother, Leader Bandaka. Please unmute yourself, Leader, and introduce yourself to the family. Rising up, brother Leader Bandaka, as he comes, as he unmutes himself. Yes. So those statistics show, that it's absolutely shocking. 3% of the people who have been vaccinated are now either unable to perform normal daily duties, unable to work, or require care from a doctor or healthcare. Absolutely shocking statistics. And less than 1% of people who supposedly have this virus are in a situation where they become a fatality. So, the rates of not taking the vaccine, the safety rate of not taking the vaccine is far greater and far higher, than those who take the vaccine. Let me allow our leader to sort his camera out, and then we'll bring it back in a short while. As soon as you're ready, leader, give me the thumbs up once you've taken yourself off mute, please. Let me see if I can unmute you here. No, I'm unable to do so. Yeah, you'll need to unmute yourself on your laptop. Hey, there we go. Bringing in Leader Bandaka. Hey, rise up.
Tenai
Mwari.
Rumbidzo Kunamwari, Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. And let me also say, Kwanzaa yenu iwe na heri. Have a happy and fruitful Kwanzaa. Habari gani, what's the news? It's Kwanzaa time. We're in the pre-Kwanzaa season, and we are, as we say within the Al-Keblan Revivalist movement, we are Kwanzaa rising, which means that we are getting into the spirit of Kwanzaa. And of course, Kwanzaa, if I may say this very quickly, is a 7-day Pan-African celebration of the African family, community, and culture. And of course, when we say Pan-African, we mean it concerns all African people worldwide. So it really is a joy and a blessing, Sister Shanice, to be invited again on this very important medium of communication to the African world. Give thanks and praises. Let me say a massive and mighty vudum to Dr. Aboo. It's good to be sharing this program with you. And you asked me to just introduce myself, Sister Shanice. I am Brother Leader Mbandaka. I am the spiritual leader of the Al-Kebulan Revivalist movement. And we are a liberation movement that is based upon an African-centered spiritual cultural philosophy called Al-Kebulan Livity, which means living according to the divine teachings and traditions of our mother culture. And in that context, we adhere to the philosophy and opinions of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and his Queen Mama Amy Jakes, Queen Mama Amy Ashwood Garvey. And we also adhere to the teachings of the eminent prophet and king, Papa Omowale Malcolm X, and his Queen Mama Betty Shabazz. So in their names, we come to you we humbly offer ourselves in service. Tendai Mwari.
Tenda Mwari Lida Mandaka and happy Kwanzaa. Habari gani? Back at you. And I want to rise up all of you in the chat who are sending your messages of greetings. Ricardo saying, greetings, African family. Vudum. Great Dr. Aboo. Big love and respect to Sister Shanice. That's from Ricardo Walker. Tuning in from Windsor in Canada. Welcome, welcome on board, Canada. And I know we've got Kenya in the house. Rise up, family from Kenya as well. And this message is saying there must a new strain, a scam virus coming from South Africa. It seems that they are determined to unleash it on the continent, as they wasn't as successful as expected the first time round. That's right. And they always used and abused South Africa as the testing ground. If we look at the AIDS virus and the extent to which that ravaged the southern region of Africa as well, we can see, you know, the extent of the wickedness in the medical profession in the South African region. And it seems that those laboratories in that region are, you know, busily, you know, utilizing those awful strains and spreading it in the community. So brothers and sisters in the South African region, don't allow yourselves to be used as lab rats. You know, far from it. And we're getting greetings coming in from different parts of the world. Let us know where you're locked in from. Here's our one here from Kenya saying, Habari gani? Shanice, greetings to you. And Dr. Aboo, love from Kenya, from Sister Makina. Welcome, welcome, our sister from Kenya. And this message says, no to their vaccines in Africa. That's right. I'm hoping that, you know, everybody in our community has got the message loud and clear about the situation regarding the vaccines. Let me go over to Dr. Aboo. Dr. Aboo, any comments regarding the vaccines before we go into topic today?
Well, first of all, I want to rise up Leader Mandaka and all the members of the Al-Qaeda and Revivalist movement, you know, and to you, Sister Shanice, and to our family and them that is in locked in. You know, what I said, when we hear that a tribe of the European race have a vaccine, we should be running in the next direction. Because history show us what a European tribe have done to us. I don't know which one of them. I'm trying now to identify that tribe, but I know that it's a tribe of the European them that is causing this chaos. You understand, you know? And if we start to go in our true education and realize that that same tribe, you know, was part of the Inquisition. We have beat the woman, you know, beat them into submission, you know, calling them witch and all of these things. This wasn't African doing that to them. You understand? Mm-hmm. If we allow their education to carry through in our head, then every year will be vaccine blood. You understand? Mm-hmm. You know? But if we put our mind towards developing, not only developing, but practicing our own art and crafts, then there's nothing can stop us. Nothing. Mm-hmm. You know? And that's part of a basic of a African-centered education. You know, Vudum.
Vudum, Doctor, absolutely, you know, highlighting again for us the importance of an African-centered education, because it's all about the mindset. You know, if we were in our right minds, change would happen overnight. But many of us, unfortunately, are not in our right mind and may well decide to take the vaccine despite the history. Brother Leader, any words from you, please, regarding the vaccine, and any words of advice or suggestions to our community that's watching and listening, tuned into us right now?
Tenai Mwari, Sister Shanice, with your permission, I would like to also just raise up the spirit of the son of the prophet, who recently left our earthly company. The son of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, and his queen, Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey, their first son, Papa Marcus Jacques Garvey, left our earthly company very recently, and was actually, there was the passing over ceremony 2 days ago, and he was duly laid to rest yesterday. So I'm still riding on the powerful energy of his spirit. He is the seed of his father, and you know the debt that the African world owe the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, for giving us the black print for liberation. So we hail and we honor the spirit and the life and the name and the works of the son of the prophet and the queen of the prophet, Marcus Jacques Garvey. We hail him and we say, may the ancestors gather around him and give him safe ascendancy, and may his soul rise like Ra on the wings of Ma'at after a favorable judgment in the council of Assar. Ashe, 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 oh, Amen.
Ashe, oh.
It is done. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari.
Onto this scourge called COVID-19 and the vaccine. And I know that's not our main focus, so I'll try and be brief in my remarks on this particular matter. I want to heal my mother, my father, and 2 of my aunts, all in their 80s. In fact, my father is the youngest of those 4, and he's 85. My mother, 87. One of my aunts, 88. One of my aunts, 89. All have been called by their doctors and invited to come in for the vaccine. All of them have refused the vaccine, and I want to heal them. I must also heal my sister, who is the main care of my father, who suffers from dementia, and she has taken a firm stance. When elders of that kind of age are being bombarded with propaganda every day, almost telling them that, you know, they are at risk of dying, of getting this virulent virus, and because of their age and their underlying conditions, hypertension, you know, some of them have hypertension, little heart issues here and there. So they've been advised. My mother was asked by her doctor, don't you want to be free? Don't you want to be free to go about? And my mother said, well, I'm fine, thank you, I'm feeling pretty good. You know, my aunt told her doctor, I'm too old to worry about whether I'm going to get a virus. But I thank you so much for thinking of me. They're very polite people, and they've taught me good manners. You know, I'm so proud of them. And I simply want to say, my position is I'm not going to instruct or even advise anyone whether to take or not to take the vaccine. I will tell brothers and sisters why I will not be taking the vaccine. And I would urge brothers and sisters to inform themselves before even considering taking this vaccine. And the main thing I think we should be concerned about, amongst many other things, is that it's experimental. It's an experimental vaccine technology that they're using, which tampers with our DNA and our RNA, which is the actual coding for our genetic makeup. And we should be concerned about the long-term implications. There are medical experts who have spoken out publicly who are saying they themselves as medical experts are worried about the implications of this vaccine, which has not been properly tested, so that no one can say with confidence that it has gone through even the normal tests, which are never adequate, never good enough. But when you consider that a vaccine would take 18 to 20 years, the quickest a vaccine has ever taken is 5 years. I think it's a month vaccine. That took 5 years. And that was considered to be an express pace. When you think that this took months, about 8 months, yes, and the usual seizures have not been undertaken, there is no way that they can truly convince us that the vaccine is safe. Let me make one additional quick point, if I may. I heard you say a few moments ago, Sister Shanice, that the death rate for those who contract the vaccine is less than 1%. It is actually 0.3%. So it's less than half.
Wow.
Less than 0.5%. Yes? That is the case. And if it is the case that 85% of those who contract the virus will experience nothing more than mild symptoms, some 14% or so will experience more severe symptoms. But the overwhelming majority of those will survive those symptoms, and 0.2% may die. Now, we must also remember that leading experts from Oxford University have questioned the statistics that the government has put out there, the death toll that the government has published to the public, has been questioned by leading Oxford experts who said that the figures have been over-exaggerated by Public Health England, in that anybody who has caught COVID-19 or who has been diagnosed, and there is another problem. The diagnostic test that they use, PCR, is a test that was invented by a man named Kerry Mullis, who interestingly died in August of last year, just a few months before the outbreak, before the pandemic. Yeah? He himself said that the test that he invented, to which he was given a Nobel Peace Prize, I think in 1993, he himself said it was not a diagnostic test. That it was not designed as a diagnostic test. So that test that was invented 40 years ago, that the inventor said was not designed as a diagnostic test, is a test that we're using to diagnose COVID-19. You see?
That's right.
All of those reasons and much, much more, we should be very, very careful about agreeing to take this vaccine. And as you said,
Brother Leader,
yes,
we're getting a bit of an echo. I'm hearing it, and someone's just mentioned in the chat that they're hearing it. I wonder if you can turn the volume down just a little bit, please, on your computer to see if that helps reduce the echo, please. Thank you so much. And we're just
Don't worry. Does that help?
Don't worry. Yeah, please continue. Let's hear if the echo has gone. Thank you. In the
okay. I think I heard you trying to get my train of thought back. Where was I, my sister? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now. I think the echo has now gone as well, which is fantastic. So yes, you were giving some very valid reasons about why we should be concerned, and we were looking at the Oxford University statistics that showed very clearly that there was concern about how the statistics were being presented. Yeah, and I would add as well that there's even recent statistics to show that the normal annual death rate is lower so far this year than in previous years as well. That is with COVID included in the death rates, according to the ONS statistics.
Absolutely. And I don't want to go too much further. I know that's the main topic this evening, Sister Shanice. But I think we are in a quagmire as a people, because the very fact that we are being told that we are disproportionately affected by this disease. And indeed, African people are dying in very, serious circumstances, it must be said, that we should as a people be concerned. And it worries me that we are not as organized as a community and as a nation of people as we should be in order to generate the kind of mechanism to protect our own interests. That's my main concern.
Tendai Mwari, and good reason to be concerned, and that kind of takes us into our topic for discussion today as well. And family, I'm sure are still hoping we're going to be joined quite soon by our prophet Amedudu Keku, so we will add him when he comes, and our brother Jammers, we will add them when they do manage to join us. I know that they do work very hard and may well, still be at work or trying to get on screen very soon from work. So a lot of reason to be concerned, and that's just an outline there. Thank you very much, leader, for that. Lots of causes for concern in terms of the statistics, in terms of the fact that the survival rate seems to be far greater, without the vaccines than it is with the vaccine, and with the death rate being so low, less than 0.5%. There's no justification whatsoever for this vaccine. And what we have to make sure of is that yes, my brother.
Let us throw one more quick point in here.
Yes. Go ahead.
There is a Tory politician, no less, by the name of Sir Desmond Swayne. So he's a knight of the realm. He's a protector of the realm. Instinctually, he would be inclined to defend the integrity of the British realm. He is accusing his government. He's a Tory member of Parliament, and he is accusing his government in Parliament of engaging in Project Fear. He accused them in Parliament of exaggerating the seriousness and the effects of COVID-19. Now, if he is accusing his government, then we as African people should be on red alert.
Absolutely.
I hope people understand. If the government is engaging in effectively, what he's saying is you are engaging in false propaganda. And he said in the Parliament that the advisors, the government's chief medical advisor and chief scientific advisor should be sacked. He said this in the House of Parliament. It's on YouTube. Sir Desmond Swayne. Check it out yourself. So if he is saying that, then what is happening behind the scenes that we are not fully aware of and should be aware of? We should be on red alert. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. Yes, brother leader, we should be on red alert indeed. And our brother hasn't even touched on the history of medical apartheid and the history of medical abuse against us as Africans in so many parts of the world. The abuse of our people in America, the Tuskegee experiment, for example, that went on for over 40 years and allowed syphilis to be spread as far as Jamaica and other Caribbean islands as a result of that syphilis experiment. The hundreds of thousands of Kenyan women who have been sterilized by their vaccines, the hundreds of thousands of women from Ethiopia who have been sterilized by their vaccines, the erectile dysfunctional problems that a lot of our men are experiencing across the continent as a result of their vaccines and the chemicals that they're adding to the fizzy drinks, the polio vaccines that triggered the AIDS virus in Africa, killing millions of Africans, the Ebola virus that was created in the laboratory and then unleashed on our people across Africa. It's absolutely, this record is shocking. And then we are supposed to line up and take their vaccines? Really? Hey. Okay, family. I mean, we're just touching on this topic. It's not the topic for discussion today, but we're just touching on it because I know it's a topic that's been discussed in all of our households on an everyday basis. Because the society that we live in and the world that we're living in today, because they control the media, are pumping out a huge amount of information at us 24/7, and if you're plugged into their media, then you are going to be totally consumed with a lot of misinformation regarding COVID-19. And therefore, we just want to, urge you to do your own independent research and not just to follow the narrative that's coming from the mainstream. Dr. Aboo, any words from you on this before we move on to the main topic?
Well, Brother Leader, say a lot in this topic, but no matter what you're going to discuss, if vaccine doesn't come up, that means you're a dead person, but you understand? No matter what you're going to discuss, because it's right in our face. So what we're going to do? Ignore it? We can't ignore it. And it's good that the topic is education, because if a lot of us wasn't miseducated, then we would see the danger. Simple.
For real. Rise up, Dr. Aboo. And, that is the crux of the problem, the miseducation of us as a people. And, we are addressing this miseducation from a number of different perspectives. And, we're going to be looking at the issue today as well. Let me quickly turn to my notes, family. And let's go into the discussion. This is part 3 in our new series of discussions entitled Africa's Return to Greatness. And we're going to be looking at the miseducation and looking at the issues that we're challenged with as Africans from an African political perspective. We're going to be learning from our revolutionaries. We're going to be hearing about the assassinations, the coups, what Africa needs to do differently to rise to greatness again in the 21st century. So, we're going to have this very insightful African-centered educational discussion here with us today. And, when we look at the issues, the challenges, obviously we can just touch on some of the issues within the 2 hours that we have, because there are just so many issues that we are faced with as people. We can't go into it all just within 2 hours, and we will be continuing this discussion next strong as well. We do have coming from Africa a young man as well by the name of our brother Toure, Osman Toure, who's going to be continuing the discussion with us as well alongside our other panel members, because this topic is huge. When we look at this education from a political perspective, when we consider all that we've tried as African nations and what we're up against. What are we up against when we're looking at issues from a political perspective? Well, one of the things obviously that we can't ignore is the fact that until today, there are at least 12, maybe as many as 14 African countries that are being forced by France to pay colonial tax for the so-called benefits of slavery and colonization. What could be a greater insult? What could be a greater insult is one of the questions I want to be asking. Please feel free in the chat to help me to answer this question. Being forced to pay for a colonial tax, for the benefits of slavery and colonization, for the benefits of genocide, the taking over of our land. I could say so much more about that. And if we, from a political perspective as well, just do a bit of research, or even just use Wikipedia, we will find, if we look into the number of assassinations that's happened in Africa alone amongst our politicians and our main leaders and journalists and those in the key positions in the military in peacetime, to stop us as a people from controlling our own countries, you will find that there has been at least 150 murders or assassinations or supposed suicides, which have now been deemed as assassinations of African leaders, primarily influenced by outside forces to enable former colonialists to maintain control and dominance over their former colonies. And, you know, we can home in on some of our late great revolutionaries, like, for example, President Sylvanus Olympio. And he didn't want his country to continue to be dominated by the French. And so he refused to sign the Colonization Continuation Pact. And what did they do? The French supported a group of soldiers to kill that first elected president, to assassinate that newly elected independent president. And we have also, for example, President Sekou Touré, whose slogan was, "We prefer freedom in poverty to opulence in slavery." And when Sekou Touré of Guinea decided back in 1958 that he wanted to get rid of the French colonial empire from out of his land and opted for his country to be independent of France, what did the French colonizers elite do at the time? In their fury, apparently the French administrations in Guinea, they destroyed everything in the country which they claimed represented the benefits of colonialism. And what did they do? 3,000 of them left the country, which was a good thing, but what they did on leaving was they destroyed the schools, the nurseries, the public administration buildings, they crumbled cars, they killed livestock, they destroyed and poisoned the food, they destroyed buildings, books, medicines, research institution instruments, tractors were crushed and sabotaged, homes it was absolutely diabolical what happened. And I actually heard firsthand of some of these incidences as well when I visited Zimbabwe and heard from some of the veterans there about what happened after they managed to chase out the British and the Europeans from Zimbabwe. And so, you know, serious things when our leaders decide that they want to try and take control of their country. And so, you know, we have got to look nevertheless at what the situation is facing the leaders of today, okay? Because we often criticize the leaders, and I'm not saying that they're not above criticism. Obviously, we're free to criticize, but we also have to recognize the hand of the hidden powers, you know, that are behind the scenes, actually causing a huge amount of devastation on our land. Let's welcome Brother Jammers as well. Rise up, Brother Jammers. Welcome. Take yourself off.
Greetings, glad to join the discussion. I'm looking forward to it once again. Thank you for having me here again.
Welcome on board, Brother Jammers. So we're just getting into the topic for discussion today. And let me ask our brother leader Bandaka. I'm so hoping we have a clearer line from our brother leader, because, you know, he always has such powerful messages to deliver, and we want to hear him as clearly as possible. But there's a, you know, slight challenge before with the line. Let's hope that it's clear. If it's not, we will just strain to listen to our brother leader Bandaka. Leader, over to you.
Sorry, and the
okay,
question is,
you know what?
sister?
It's more than just a question as well. It's a situation that we find ourselves in, you know, as a people today. We're looking in today at how we as a people and how we as Africans can become great again within the context that we find ourselves in, post-colonialism. And we see post-colonialism, all the assassinations, all of the control that's happening on the African continent, the forces behind the scene that are undermining the efforts, that undermine the efforts of our revolutionaries, undermine the efforts, you know, of our great leaders to take back control of their country. We see what happened when our leaders decided that they wanted to leave, you know, from the control of the colonizers. You know, what is it that we need to do as a people to become great again? To become great again. And let's, you know, recognize and acknowledge, you know, some of the atrocities of the past and what our people do experience, because I don't know how much time our people have to do the research. But if we want to talk about the assassinations of some of our revolutionaries and the treatment of France and other countries, I leave it to you, my brother leader, to decide, you know, from what perspective you would like to deal with this particular issue.
Okay, Tendai Mwari, Rumbidzo Kuna Mwari, ye Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. And I say, to the God of Africa be the glory for this beautiful and powerful, gifted sister and queen that sits before us and who facilitates these discussions every Ujama evening, every Wednesday evening. I didn't say, I want to emphasize that we are redefining time and space. And so since we have the gift of the Unguzo Saba, the 7 life principles that we celebrate at the end of the year, we within the Al-Keblan Revivalist movement, and we encourage our brothers and sisters around the world as we seek to find mechanisms that will reunite us in mind, body, and spirit, to use the Unguzo Saba to name the days of the week. And so this, rather than calling upon European gods, let me emphasize, because every day that we get up and say Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we are hailing and we are evoking a European god. The word day is short for deity. And so we're calling upon a European deity every single day. Let us reinforce an African principle instead. So this is the day of Ujama, which means cooperative economics, where we remind ourselves and where we revise the concept and the principle of cooperative economics as we as African people have naturally, historically practiced it. So we give thanks and praises. We say again, Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory for this opportunity. And bless you, Sister Shanice, for loving our people so much and being so committed to our people's liberation that this can't be easy. This is work. You do it so well, my sister. You know, you manifest as poetry in motion. You do it so well. It comes so easy. It appears to like poetry in motion, but we know it's hard work. So we want you to know that we love you and we appreciate you for this.
Thank you
You've given us
so
a brilliant backdrop. Give thanks and praises. You've given us a brilliant backdrop and insight. And I just want to build on the wisdom that you have already shared with us, my beloved sister.
Please do. Mm-hmm.
You asked the question, what it is that we need to do. And I want to pick up on that particular question. What we need to do more than anything else is heed the words of our ancient Kemetian ancestors, inscribed in tombs and temples that still stand in evidence. You will find the words, and this was the foundation of our education system. Man, woman, know thyself. Man, woman, know thyself. The most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, used to say, and Bob Marley, the songist, put it in song: emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, for none but ourselves can free our minds.
Mm-hmm.
The Kwanzaa celebration that we observe every year the founding organization under the leadership, or should I say the leader of the founding organization, in the book that was written on behalf of the organization called Kawaida Theory, informs us that the reason why they developed this concept and this celebration called Kwanzaa is because during the 60s, when Africans in the United States and indeed around the world were revolutionizing in order to throw off the yoke or burst through the yoke of oppression and exploitation, they were trying to find the answer. They asked the same question: what it is that we need to do, what it is that we need to understand as a people. And they offered us the understanding that the key crisis in Black life is the culture crisis, the crisis of views and values, which creates a deficiency in self-concepts, self-understanding. We have a deficient view of ourselves because of this key crisis, this culture crisis, whereby we have imbibed the cultural ideas of alien oppressors, and that those cultural ideas define us as inferior. So we have a defective view of ourselves and a defeatist approach to anything that would empower and liberate us as a people. So we have got to get to know ourselves. We have got to get to know who we are. We are Africans. We often say we're Black, and that's correct. But that says something about the outer casing of who we really are. Black is the color of our skin, but African is the substance of our being. Which means that we are the natural sons and daughters of the continent we now call Africa. We are its children, and therefore the very nature of Africa is coded in our DNA. We are connected to the African continent through our DNA. Our genes comes from the ecology of the environs of the African continent. And so we are tied to the African continent. And then we should also know in that context, beloved, that we are the first people. Africa is the mother of human creation and the cradle of civilization. So humankind evolved first from the African continent, and what we call civilization was advanced earth by the powerful minds of the Africans and given to the world. We are the foundation of humanity and of civilization. We need to understand that. And therefore, we are the vicegerents of God Almighty, the creator of the universe, Olodumare, Mwari Nyakusika. We have so many names across the length and breadth of the African continent for the creator of the universe. Nkulunkulu, Nkosi, Nzambi. We have many, many names. Nananyame. Many names for the creator, beloved brothers and sisters. We Africans are the vicegerents of the creator of the universe. Then we must understand what we have been gifted. What we have been gifted. Look at the land called Africa that so many of us are running away from. Africa, according to international statistics coming from the United Nations, nearly 20% of the world's population are Africans in Africa. That's not included the diaspora. That's almost 1 in 5. Almost 1 in 5 of the people of the earth are on the African continent. Take that in mind, brothers and sisters. 60% of the world's most arable land is on the African continent. 60% of the world's most arable land. In fact, it is said that the Congo alone can feed the entire humanity. Congo alone can feed the entire humanity. Think about it, brothers and sisters. 10% of the global of oil is from the African continent. Now, be very careful with those statistics, because oil is being discovered on the African continent every day. Right? The Chinese, about 20 years ago, said, after doing some research in the Sudan, the Chinese said the Sudan has more oil and the richest oil than all of OPEC, all of the OPEC countries. The Sudan alone.
Wow.
We have oil in Nigeria, in Angola, in the Congo, in Chad. We have oil all over the African continent, even in Ghana. Oil has been found. Okay. 90% of the world's platinum, 90% of the world's cobalt. Cobalt is used in jet engines. No cobalt, no jet engine. And other powerful machinery and mechanics. Cobalt is used. 90% of the world's cobalt. In fact, I can't remember the name, I think it was Cohen, the name of an American official who said that one of the main reasons why Patrice Lumumba had to die was because the stance that he was taking in the Congo would reduce their access to cobalt, so much of which they desperately needed. 90% of the world's cobalt comes from Africa. 50% of the world's gold supply comes from Africa. 66%, that's 2/3 of manganese. 35% of the world's uranium that they need for their nuclear technology. The bombs that they unleashed on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The primary ingredient in that bomb came from the African continent. No uranium, no nuclear technology. 66%. 40% of the, 66% of the world's uranium. Sorry, manganese. 66% of the world's manganese. But 40% of the world's uranium. 75% of the world's coltan. Many of us will know that coltan is that, again, that ingredient that is in mobile phones, laptops, computers, etc., etc. No computer technology without coltan. All this and other, let me take you back to the very beginning. I said 60%. 60% of the world's most arable land is on the African continent. Africa has the most sunlight than any other continent in the world. So it's a great source for solar energy, a great source for wind energy. And we could go on and on and on. That's who we are. The first people of the first land and of the wealthiest land in creation. Now ask yourself, why did the Creator create us first? And why did the Creator give us all this abundance of wealth and riches? We were created for a special purpose in this world. And that is the exact reason why the world is so jealous of Africa and its people. Now we see, as we have seen in history, a scramble. It used to be a scramble for Africans. That's slavery. When the European world was scrambling on the African continent to steal Africans bodily, to bring us into the Caribbean and into the Americas, okay, to enslave us in the most vicious and brutal manner. The most fiendish and savage act of inhumanity that has ever disgraced humanity was meted out against Africans. So there was a scramble for Africans. We've heard of the scramble for Africa. There was also the scramble for Africans that preceded the scramble for Africa. And be clear that it was not just our physical prowess that they were vying for. It was also our intellectual prowess. It wasn't just our physical exertion that brought wealth to these European countries, but it was also our ingenuity, which they sat down and studied and gained from, because we were the ones that were engaged in labor, and so we were developing labor-saving technology as slavery was going on. But the white master was the one who was taking the credit and patenting what Africans were inventing. I hope everybody is with me on that. Okay. How much time do I have, Sister Shanice?
Go ahead. You take the time you need, my brother.
Don't
worry. We'll bring in our brother Jammers after you, but you take the time you need, my brother.
Blessed. So we must realize what the scramble for Africa is about. They took us out of Africa, they enslaved us, and out of that brutal, vicious, and barbaric treatment of African people, they yielded an industrial revolution that magnified their wealth hundreds of times. European nations became more wealthy than they even anticipated, because they worked our fingers to our bones, as Papa Omowale Malcolm X used to say, from can't see in the morning till can't see at night.
True.
They whipped us, they raped us, they abused us, they misused us, while we were generating wealth for them. That is the nature of the relationship between the African and the European, the historical relationship, that they are enriched and empowered by their interaction and engagement with us. We are impoverished and disempowered by our interaction and engagement with Europeans. This is what we have to understand.
This is it.
And so the scramble for Africa, which is formally recognized as the 1984-85 Berlin Conference, where Europeans, after 100 years or so, these liars who said that they ended slavery. Let me tell you what that was about. The so-called abolition of slavery was actually a transformation of the slavery system from a private enterprise to a nationalized industry. I'm using economic terms here that many of us will be familiar with. Now, what do I mean by that? During slavery, individuals could own, individual Europeans could claim ownership of Africans as their property. So a European can say, go and buy an African from an auction block and say, this is my property. And they can do with that property what they will. That's private ownership. when the system of slavery was abolished, which was a pen and paper exercise, what happened was Europeans were still going into Africa, raping Africa, but now instead of taking the African from the land, they were taking the land from the Africans. That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
For hundreds of years, they were taking the African from the land. Now they were taking the land from the Africans. And they colonized the land. And therefore, and these were nations now. Britain, France, Belgium, Holland, what's the other one? Portugal, Spain, Italy, all of them. We're now stealing the land from the Africans rather than stealing the Africans from the land and colonizing the land. And therefore, these nations now nationally claim ownership to the land and therefore everything thereon.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
That's
yes,
nationalization of the slavery system, but they didn't call it slavery, they call it colonialism. But be it understood that colonialism or colonization is simply national, in terms of our history, is simply nationalization of the slavery system, which was a private enterprise. And it's in many ways a far more deadly system, because they did it under the guise of the humanitarian cause of ending the slave trade and then ending slavery.
Can you say that again for me, please? The line's cracking up a little bit. We want to hear everything you're saying, brother leader.
Listen, they did it under the guise of the humanitarian guise of ending slavery. So the Europeans, or the British in particular, I love to tell you, they were the first to end the slave trade. You hear them say that all the time as their defense of their integrity.
The line is cracking up. It's getting worse. Your line is frozen now, brother leader, my end.
Okay.
So sorry about this. We want to hear what you're saying. You are just enlightening us to see, the issues from a different perspective. And wow, brother leader, we want to hear more of what you're saying. I've never looked at it that way before, that slavery went from privatization, where it's individuals who privately owned us Africans as their private property, to nationalization, a national kind of industry, where they first of all took Africans from the land, and now afterwards.
And it seems like we've lost Sister Denise. Can you carry on? Can you carry on? Because we can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah, carry on, because she can't hear us at her end, but we can hear you perfectly. So carry on.
Okay. I'm wondering if it would be in order to carry on without her. That's the only.
Yeah. We got to carry on until she comes back. See if she resumes. So It's really, I want people to really take in what you're saying about the situation that we're in and the nature of the people that we're encountering. So if you can continue. Oh, she's back.
Okay. Can you hear me now, Sister Shanice?
Okay, my apologies, family. Having some problems with the internet. As you know, I'm on the continent at the moment, and one of the sacrifices of being on the continent is that, at the moment as Africans, we don't own our own satellite, we don't have our own internet systems, and so we're relying on European satellites, etc., and a totally inadequate infrastructure to be able to communicate. So my apologies if, we drop out some of the time. As you can see, we've got Dr. Aboo back with us. Welcome back, Dr. Aboo. We lost you for a little while. And brother leader, I think the line dropped out, in the middle of what you were saying. I wonder if you can pick up, please, from where your presentation to us. Thank you.
Yeah, Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari.
Can you hear me now, my sister?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I believe where I got to was where Europeans, where the system of slavery, which was a privatized system, was transformed into a nationalized system of enslavement, which they then called colonialism. So rather than individuals claiming ownership, individual Europeans claiming ownership of individual Africans, it was now European nations claiming ownership of African lands, and therefore everything thereon. So the people, the wealth of the land, everything that was on the land now became the ownership of a European nation. And I am suggesting that this was a more deadly form, a more insidious form of enslavement, because it was predicated on the false claim, the false notion that Britain was engaged in the humanitarian effort to end the slave trade. So whereas Britain was intercepting French and Dutch ships to stop these French and Dutch ships from collecting Africans, and had an interest in ending the so-called, I hate that term, slave trade. But bring me back to that if you will. But I hate that term, slave trade. It's just a term that we should discard. It was a slavery raid that was made on the African continent. Yes, and there were reasons why it was not in Britain's interest to continue with that particular system of raiding. And one of the reasons was they had lost their biggest colony, i.e. the United States of America in the American Revolution. That was one of the key reasons why the system of the so-called slave trade, the slavery raid, had become much less lucrative and viable, because they had lost their biggest plantation, which was the United States of America during the American Revolution. But let me press forward very quickly. It's important that we understand this, that slavery was not ended, that Africans were colonized now nationally, both on the African continent and in the African diaspora. In the Caribbean, we were colonized. In America, we were also colonized. People don't see it that way, but we were colonized also in the Americas. In 1884-85 was when we had the Berlin Conference. And the purpose of the Berlin Conference was to cool out the Europeans who were about to go to war for African booty. That's why they had the Berlin Conference, so they could sit down, pretend as if they're civilized, and discuss how they're going to share up the African continent. 14 European nations present. America was there, have given observer status. We often forget that America was also present at that conference, but they were. And this was when the African continent was carved up into the constructs that we see today, that we call Nigeria and Ghana and Angola and the Congo and Central African Republic and Chad and Mauritania and the rest of these nations. And let's be clear, no African was present at that conference to agree or disagree with anything. Okay? And these lines were drawn up on the African continent to render the African continent pliable and easy to colonize. And so they cut across. Remember, they were traditional African nations. We were taught to call them tribes. That's another awful word that we need to discard. You never hear Europeans referring to their traditions, their traditional nations, as tribes. Yoruba is a nation. Akan is a nation. Ga is a nation. Tigre is a nation. Zulu is a nation. Many of these nations were much bigger and much wealthier than European nations. They were organized African nations. They were engaged in nation building craft. So they were indigenous African nations that were based upon indigenous African traditions, indigenous African philosophy and ideals. Let's be clear about that. So that's another term that we need to discard, tribes. But they cut across these African nations, chopped up these African nations, and created these colonies. And then use divide and conquer to turn these African nations against each other within the confines of these constructs that they had created. Africa is still suffering from that today. There are still border wars going on in Africa and border tensions going on in Africa today. Indigenous African nations are still vying for wholeness again. They want to reconnect in their traditions with their brothers and sisters with whom or against whom borders have been drawn to separate them. So that's still an issue on the African continent today. You mentioned Sylvanus Olympia earlier on. But even he and the assassinations with Ghana and Togo, if we are familiar with the map of Africa, we'll know that Togo is and Ghana border each other. And there were border conflicts because part of the indigenous Togo Ewe people were just chopped off and just made part of Ghana. Yes? That created a tension between the assassinations and Sylvanus Olympia, which I believe, if Olympia had not been assassinated, would have eventually resolved itself. Yes? So that event, the 1884-85 Berlin Conference, was a vicious destruction on the African continent. Britain had the lion's share, followed by France. And then you had Portugal and Italy and Germany and all of them having peace. Belgium, the king of Belgium was given the Congo, the king of Belgium, as his own personal property. Wasn't given to Belgium now, it was given to the king of Belgium as his own personal property. So that was a scramble for Africa. And so between that 1884-85 event, coming on through the decades of the 20th century, into the we're coming through the early 20th century, where we had the unleashing of the Garvey movement from the mid-19-teens into the 1930s, when the movement was at its most powerful. It started in the mid-teens, but it began to gain momentum from 1918 onwards. It began to really develop momentum, and may have peaked in the mid-1920s. But let us remember that in 1924, I believe it was, that the UNIA-ACL sent £50,000 worth of industrial and agricultural material to Liberia for the industrialization of Liberia and agricultural development in Liberia, which was then sabotaged by the forces of global white supremacy. If that was allowed to develop, Africa would be telling a different story today. Africa would be singing a different song today. It would not be songs and chants of war that we'd be singing in Africa today, but it would be songs and chants of glory that we'd be singing in Africa today. if that work of the the most eminent prophet and king and the UNIA was continued uninterrupted. It's a powerful work. But let me just go on, beloved brothers and sisters. We came through the 20s, the 30s, into the 40s. And in 1945, we had the 5th Pan-African Congress. Let me back up a little bit. 1900 was the first Pan-African Conference led by Henry Sylvester Williams, great Pan-Africanist. And that whole effort, in fact, he founded he was the person who coined the term Pan-Africanism and established the first Pan-African organization in name, the Pan-African Association. And then in 1990, he called the Pan-African Conference here in the UK. And the purpose of that conference was to resist the scramble for Africa. He was trying to rally Africans on the continent. He traveled to West Africa, he traveled to Southern Africa, and his whole energy, and he traveled throughout the Caribbean, and his whole energy was channeled towards mobilizing Africans in the African continent and outside the African continent to resist anywhere we were, resist the scramble for Africa, because he could see what the outcome of that would be. He knew it spelled danger for Africans, not only on the African continent, but around the world. Between 1919 and 1927, there were four congresses, Pan-African congresses, led by W.E.B. Du Bois. I won't go into a critique of those conferences here and now. It will take too much time. But just register that.
Right, and let's come back to you, my brother leader. You know, some deeply insightful educational points that we're going to be taking away from your presentation today, leader. You know, and so much learning, and we're going to be looking at, you know, going forward, how we have to learn, you know, from our history so that we don't make the mistakes again. Thank you so much, leader. Please hold your points there. Let me please allow Brother Jammers to come in. With my apologies for the technical problems. I think the problems are my end. I'm picking up from the chat that everyone can hear Brother Leader perfectly clearly. It's just my end where I think the connection isn't as powerful as ideally, you know, I'd like it to be. I've even lost Dr. Aboo now, and I'm waiting for him to come back so I can add him back to the stream. But Brother Jammers, you know, thank you so much for your patience. Over to you, my brother, for comments, insights, views and opinions.
No, there's no patience. It's a fantastic presentation. I want people to hope people be taking notes of our great brother Mandaka, because it's really important that we really know, as I said, once you know the history, you know why we're in the position we're in. I mean, we need, and it's the last days, so now it's time to wake up for the days. I'm going to read a little piece in relation to the slave trade as well, and then I'll just talk a bit about. So this guy, I'm going to read about. So Joseph Banks was the president of the Royal Society and founder of the African Association. So they founded the African Association. The black workforce is the source of all wealth, and this comes from the slave trade, the history of the Atlantic slave trade, and by Hugh Thomas. So once again, the black slave trade is the source of all wealth. Our resources is the resource of all of their wealth. Right. On Monday, June the 9th, 1788, Sir Joseph Banks and Captain Cook met for dinner. And this is what we have to realize, what it took for them to take over us. Right. So once again, Monday, June the 8th, 1788, Sir Joseph Banks and Captain Cook met for dinner with five fellow members of their Saturday club upstairs in a private room that evening at St. Albans Tavern of Pall Mall, and this meeting was to change the lives and the identities of Africans forever. So once again, 5 of them met in Pall Mall, and the meeting that they had changed our lives forever. So this is what we have to see what's transgressed to get us out of the situation, or to see what the nature of this. The source of this information is from The Race for Timbuktu by Frank T. Kreiser, which is Kryza. The African Association, so they formed the African Association, was formed, and each member pledged 5 gold guineas a year to trade and indulge in the conquest of Africa. Right, so 5 guineas, 5 men put 5 gold guineas to engage in trade and the conquest of Africa. The River Niger had never been seen by Europeans, and it was believed to lead to the mystical city of gold, Timbuktu. And this was identified for their first priority of conquest. The Niger was seen as the source of power, and now the world has been given a derogatory name. So so 5 of them got together and planned to take us over. What Brother Bandaka is saying is, we have to really look at the maneuvers that these people have made to take our identity, take our land, and we have to wake up and get back our African spirit, because we've been asleep. They call it a tear. We're wearing a mask breathing in carbon dioxide gas, tear gas. They've got us camped in isolation, concentrating on the fear that they're trying to give us with this corona. So we're in a tear, breathing in carbon dioxide gas, tear gas. It camped in, concentrating on them. So this is the new concentration camp, and we have to wake up. The only way we've been designed to get through every form of trauma on the planet. We're built for this. We're built. We've got the warrior spirit in us. We're the most traumatized human being on the planet, and we're still standing. What we have to do is get our African state back of mind, and wake up and defend our families. We can't be sitting down, camped in, breathing in carbon dioxide gas on their tear gas, crying tears. Are we going to go out on our knees, or are we going to stand up swinging? We have to have our mind back and be prepared to die to live, because what they're using, every spell that they create, needs fear to become a reality. And this COVID virus is just another spell to put us under fear, to keep to shut down our African spirit. As you can see now, what time it is in the way the stars are lining up. It's a battle of disease against nature. It's a spiritual battle, a psychological battle, a mental battle. This is the year 2020, where everything will become manifest. They've had a covert operation against us. Now we can see plainly what is taking place before our very eyes. So it's important that we listen to what Brother Bandaka is saying, because we have to really wake up and get our African state of mind back together, because in relation to that, we are the walking cure. We have the cure already. It's in us. We just have to feed it with the right nutrition, Lala Afrika, Sabi, and the right state of mind. And our mind can be any kind of vaccine that they try to put in us once we get to our correct state of being. Thank you.
Wow, rise up, brother jammers. Oh, I'm gutted, I missed some of that. My receptions here is not very good, but thank you for bearing with it. I hope you're hearing my brother jammers very clearly. It was chopping in and out for me, but certainly got the gist of what you're saying, my brother, and so is everybody in the chat. They're saying, 2020 vision, we've got to be absolutely clear, as Dr. Aboo was saying before his left as well. No, it was a leader, emancipate our minds, from mental slavery. Royal saying, always powerful panels on Sister Shanice's show. Thank you so much. And Haiti has been highlighted by Miss Africa Ruse. Thank you very much for reminding us about Haiti as well. and you know, the successful revolutionary fight for independence there, and lots of big ups as well, brother jammers. And you know, I just want to add something as well to the context, to the backdrop that our brother Leader Bandaka provided for us a short while ago, because it's really, really important. He was talking about, just as he left off, he was talking about the scramble for Africa, and you know, how they put Africa on, or basically how they carved up Africa, carved through nations, made small little countries out of huge empires so they could divide and rule and control Africa for its riches, for its wealth, for its resources. That we as a people, the first people, the original human beings who the source created in its own image and gave so much riches and wealth to, so that these, you know, beasts from the Caucasus Mountains could continue to rule over us, you know. So with that in mind, you know, going forward, knowing where we're coming from and what we've already been through as a people, going forward, you would expect us to be more cautious about the sort of decisions that we make. Well, I've actually discovered, and let me find my notes on this, that here we go. Sorry, just coming to it now. The UK has actually signed trade agreements with 14 African countries. The United Kingdom, it says, Department for International Trade says the trade agreements will come into force in January for the UK with 14 African partners with the prospect of more countries to follow. This was a statement that was issued by the Department of Nigeria's office. My question is, will this mean the beginning of the return of colonial exploitation and slavery of Africa again by Britain and British partners? Now, what we do know is that Britain is actually going through the transitional period at the moment. They're no longer part of the European Union, so they're looking for new trade partners. They've left Europe because they want to go rogue on their own and start colonizing the world again. You know, a couple of years ago when Brexit was announced, I was saying to our people, beware, Britain is going to come knocking at Africa's doors. Britain is going to want to recolonize her former colonies. We have to be careful when Britain comes back, because wherever Britain goes, it was said in a quote earlier, it was not this evening on my show earlier today, wherever Britain goes, wars follow. Yeah, and for us, genocide follows, exploitation follows, slavery follows, a life of hell follows. Okay, and what we do not want to be doing is opening the doors to our former enslavers to come in under the guise of investment partners so that they can get their hands on our riches. We've had 400 or 500 years under, you know, the cosh of the British, and look at what we've gone through, and our revolutionary leaders eventually during the late 50s, early 60s managed to free us, you know, from the clutches of these beasts who were, you know, issuing the most heinous crimes upon us. And for me, it's a very worrying time indeed. You know, the guise is investment. The pretense is that they're coming in to invest in our countries, to bring economic opportunities to us, you know.
And it seems like Sister Shanice is frozen for a bit of a while. So what we have to look at as well, I can't see this is Hannibal. So we are, when we invoke ourselves, I'll just show you again, Hannibal. This is what they plan all their strategics on. We are the master strategics. They use all their battle tactics based on the strategies that we use. It's in our DNA. Really have to look what's being played out here. All war is, if you reverse the word war, which is W-A-R, you get raw. All war is fought over raw material. The reality of it, there's a higher force that's on our side. The real deal is they do not have nothing to play with. We have all the natural resources. They're tricking our mind, the African mind, because they have nothing to play with. If you look at where all the money comes from in Brexit, it comes from all the other Europeans. So Britain is actually cutting off its income by coming out of Brexit. Also, when it comes to the population breeding, their population is in decline. So their population is in decline. Our body is naturally made for harsh environments. We have the natural cure within us called menelin. They introduced a strain of COVID on February the 14th in Africa called Afri-COVID-2. They was expecting billions of people to be wiped out, but against all their calculations, even with less sanitation and medical supplies, they found out that Africa had the least people infected with this so-called disease. This disease now has backfired. They expected it to work like Ebola, but it's backfired. Look where it's hitting. It's hit the people who are most protected. It's hit Donald Trump, the biggest loser on the planet because he lost his presidency. It's hit Boris Johnson and his dog. You know, it's gone into tier 3 where? Not in Africa, over here. So basically, they call themselves German. They're the most diseased people on the planet. Their cure is disease, disease for disease. Disease cannot beat nature. So there's a lot of other things that's taking place now that are on our side. Once again, their birth rate is in decline. They have no natural resources. So they have to trick us to give away our natural resources, but we are wising up to their plan and their schemes. They have nothing. All they can do is use numbers, is calculation, and even their calculations are messing up. They don't know what to do from one day to the next. And if it's supposed to be, the vaccine's supposed to be a cure, why do you still have to wear a mask? So it's basically fraud and fabrication that they're trying to use to delude us, because we are really the ones in the position of power. We just have to see it and play it out for us. And once again, we've got to become the master strategics like Hannibal.
This is why our late great revolutionaries were just so exceptional, you know, and this is why our greats are just so exceptional. My apologies, my stream's dropping in and out, but thank you, my brothers, for keeping the show, you know, going even when I do drop out. Brother Leader, let me bring you back in. Family are asking in the chat, you know, how they can get in touch, when to hear more from you. Please also let the listeners and the viewers know how they can, you know, hear more from you. You know, the times of your radio shows, the times for Shamira, etc.
Yeah, Tendai Mwari, do I do that now, my sister?
Yes, my brother.
Okay, blessed. Blessed. Give thanks. And give thanks to beloved brothers and sisters who have made those inquiries. Keep the love flowing. I love you as much as you love me, trust me. The Al-Qiblan Revivalist movement, every first Umoja day of the month, and those of you who are listening from the beginning will know that we name the days of the week from the Unza Saba, and we do that 365 and a quarter days of the year. So we don't just wait for Kwanzaa to talk about Umoja, Kuchichagulia, Ujima, Ujamania, Kumba, Imani. These are the names now that we utter for the days of the week. So Umoja Day is the first day of the week. And every first Umoja Day of the month, the Al-Qiblan Revivalist movement convenes a Shumira. Shumira means worship, traditional African worship. And every first Umoja Day of the month, we convene that. Now, before the COVID-19 scamdemic, we would gather at our makeshift Ipetisut. Ipetisut means holy place, is the ancient Kemetian word for holy place. and we would gather at our makeshift Petit Sut in Tottenham, where we engage the community in this act of worship. We spend pretty much most of the day together. But since the scamdemic, we've been doing it online. So every first to Mother Day of the month, we are online delivering this worship, convening this worship for our community. To find out more, if you log on to our website, which is alkebulan.org, that's ALKEBULAN.org, and you will get further information, or you are welcome to call 079-08-814-152. That's 079-08-814-152 for further information. I should also, as Sister Shanice has invited me to do, inform you that we are also blessed to have a program on Galaxy Radio, Galaxyafiwe. And this is the de-brainwashing station, the only de-brainwashing station. And we are duly on Galaxy Radio, broadcasting as Africa Speaks with Alkebulan on Galaxy Radio every Kujichagulia evening. That's Monday evening, Kujichagulia evening, between, it used to be 8 and 10. We're now on from 7 to 10 for 3 hours. And we invite you to tune in and join us. We deal with a range of issues affecting the African world, and I'm sure you'll find it very, very engaging if and when you tune in. So that's how you can contact us and engage with us, beloved brothers and sisters. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari, thank you very much for providing the family with your contact details, the times of your shows. Brother Jammers, you have a show as well on the Big G. Please, you've got such a following, here as well, my brother Jammers. Please remind them when they can tune in to you on the Big G Galaxyafiwe.
I'm on before the Akibala program every first day of strength, which is from 4 till 7 o'clock. I'm also going to be. I'd like to thank the family as well for all the support I've been getting. I will also be setting up classes in the new year as well in relation to etymology and mastering the language. So that's what I'm going to be doing as well. And in relation to the topic of the day, we have to, as I said, really know who we really are. And we're greater than this experience that is manifesting before our very eyes. We have to get back in tune. Everything revolves. And as I said, means to go back, recall, renew, remember. Means to go back, volve means to turn. So everything turns back in. They're scientists, everything goes back to its original state. So this is what's happening now. The planet is going back to its original state. They have the fear of us going back to our original state of mind, where we once again were the supreme beings on the planet. So all of this is designed against us. It's all designed to stop us reverting back to its natural state of being. And this is who we are. We are having an experience, because we're not a name, we're not a word. The name is just a term of recognition. The word of a land where you're born is a recognition of the land where you're born, but we're beyond the word. We're greater than a word. We're greater than any religion. We're greater than any culture. We are experience. We are the experience, and we are the creator of the experience that we're experiencing. We're also the energy that creates the experience, that gives us the ability to create the experience that we're experiencing. So if we're the source of the energy that creates the experience, then we must be connected to a greater source that provides us the energy to give the experience. If we're connected to the greater source of energy, that means our intelligence must be communicating with the greater intelligence of the omnipresent consciousness. So that means we must be part of the omnipresent consciousness itself. So we are manifestation of the divine in the flesh. This is who we really are. In the book Coming Forth by Day, it says, if a person is going to do wrong and you don't stop the person who does wrong, who is going to do it? That means we are the representative of the divine nature of consciousness in the flesh, and we have to manifest that into being. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. You know what? The line was really bad here, but nevertheless, I just heard a lot coming through from you, Jammers. We are the manifestation of the source itself. We are the manifestation, oh my days, of the consciousness itself. It was just phenomenal the way that you dropped that. You know, I'm going to have to listen back to this show myself just so that I can hear, you know, everything more clearly than I'm hearing it right now from here where I am on the motherland. Rise up yourself, brother Jammers. I really want to ask you to come with that again, but, you know, for the sake of, you know, time and so much more to get through, I will listen back on the replay. Thank you for those words of wisdom. And, you know, that was just so powerful. You know, we've got to study what you've just said there, brother Jammers, because it makes you realize, you know, it made me realize just listening to that we are in control of the energy that we've got from the source to manifest our own reality. You know, so we have the ability to manifest our own reality. You know, we have the ability to create. You know, the Creator has given us the ability to create. Wow, wow, wow. You know, so, you know, what we focus on, that's why what we focus on is so important. Remind us, please, brother Jammers, about what's so important about what we focus on, please. I know you've dropped some.
Well, the first thing we got
before.
We got to stop focusing, because foe means the enemy and the cuss is the curse. Foe, curse. And if you look at the word focus backwards, with focus is F-O-C-U-S. When you reverse the sound, you've got the word suck off. So they're sucking off our energy because we're focusing on the foe too much. We need to generate our family and produce our family, work as a unit, and build our family together. Stop focusing on them, because when we focus on something, we give it attention. So we become attention. We're no longer free to do what we want to do. We go into a state of rest, which is interest. And even worse than that, we go into entertainment. Tain means a holding device, container, retainer, detain. So this is why our energy, it's not the almighty, we make almighty. If we wear a hat backwards, it's $1 billion industry. Whatever we put our attention to, it makes everybody else mighty. We wear a new pair of shoes, we make all the music, we make at sports, we're making almighty. We are the people, carefully look, the people with the golden touch is us. We are the people with the golden. So what we have to do is focusing on them and start seeing who we really are. Look internally, look at our family and build ourselves. No, in relation to what Brother Bandaka was saying, we didn't associate. We just realized that this is just a physical experience. This is an external. We associated our names with divine principles. And when you see yourself as the representation of the inner consciousness, which we did in our ancient civilizations, we acted in a different way to what we're doing now.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, brother Jammers. I'm going to have to listen back to all of that on the replay. That's for sure. Wow, blowing up in the chat as well. Now, you know, in terms of what we focus on, you know, brother show on Monday night on the Al Kabalan Revivalist Movement show, you know, you mentioned something that just led me to bring this information up. I'm going to drop it in now, and it's the words from, you know, our eminent prophet Marcus Messiah Garvey. And you know what he was saying was, he was defining for us what a free race looks like, which is what we ought, I think, to be focusing on, being We need to focus on our freedom and what it means to be free. And what he said, you know, when he was talking about how we'll know when we are really free, he said, no race is free until it has a strong nation of its own. He said, we need our own system of governments and our own order of society. So family, we are not going to be free, according to our prophet, until we have a strong nation of our own, with our own systems of government, our own order of society. And he said that we must never give up to this idea, and we should never let anyone actually persuade us against it. He said it's only for protection of our generation and of our race that we must have our own nation. And I would add, we need to, you know, as part of our freedom, have our own economy, our own education system, our own legal systems, value our cultures, our own institution, control our minerals, control our wealth and resources, and control our African-centered narrative as well. This is what freedom looks like. So when I say that I'm concerned that it seems that in the 21st century we're going to be moving towards going back into a so-called trade relationship, which could lead to our enslavement again with our former colonizers, we've got to be concerned, because these are a people who, when they come to control. When they come, war comes with them. They have their soldiers on the ground. They are investing £5 billion into their armies. Why? Because they're coming back into Africa. They're coming for our gold, our coltan, our diamonds, our oils, and all of our minerals and resources that they know more of, you know, than they're letting us know. They're coming to exploit again. They're coming as a colonial power again. But our focus has got to be on our freedom and our independence as a people. Brother Leader Bandaka, please speak to this, my brother. The need for freedom.
Yeah, Tendai Mari, word sound and power, Sister Shanice, and thank you very much for evoking the spirit and wisdom of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I say again that he gave us the black print for liberation. He didn't just speak the words, but he actually demonstrated to us. He provided the kind of leadership that inspired and mobilized us to do the work and build the institutions that we needed to build in order to make manifest this system of our own system of government, our own order of society. And they were working feverishly towards it. And that's what we have to pick up again. We have to understand that this liberation fight is going to be won on the basis of what we do, not what we say. What we say is important for the sake of communication, but it's not what we say that's going to change anything or transform anything. It's what we do that's going to make that transformation. So if we say that we believe in Pan-Africanism, Pan-Africanism means the total liberation and unification of Africa and all African people under an autonomous Maatian world system. Total liberation, unification. And if we talk about liberation, we must understand what liberation means. And liberation is the acquisition of the power to become the masters of our own destiny. If we are not mastering our own destiny, then we are not liberated. We are not free because someone accommodates us. We are only free when we are the masters. We determine what time we get up. We determine, we have industries that are designed to generate wealth for the empowerment, the upliftment, the security of our people. We are masters of our own destiny when we are defining time, space, and circumstance for ourselves. This is why even this little thing we call Kwanzaa is so important, because that is Africans defining time, space, and circumstance. We're saying this time of the year is Kwanzaa. We're defining time And we're creating space, and we're defining that space. That's a powerful thing to do. That's why Baba, what's his name? Wade Nobles says power is the ability to define reality and have others respond to your definition as if it was their own. We have to define reality for ourselves. So this is why even the days of the week, we must define it for ourselves. We must define it for ourselves. So we need to look at, let me pick it up from here. And you've heard me say this before. I don't think very often I speak without reminding our brothers and sisters about a fundamental principle of global geopolitics, which is whoever controls Africa rules the world. Whoever controls Africa rules the world. Yeah. And so, Sister Shanice, when you talk about Britain and Britain signing agreements with African nations, and you said Britain is coming back. Britain has never left. Britain has never left Africa because Britain cannot establish and maintain any control, any power in the world unless she has some control over African land, African territory. And to control African land, you must control African minds. And this is what we also have to understand. That is the state of the African mind that will determine whether we have the capacity to transform our reality. It's a state of mind that is of primary importance. Do we have the consciousness? Do we have the... When we talk about power, what is power? Power is the capacity to effect your will. If you have the capacity to effect your will, then you have power. You can will it and bring it into being, make it happen. Global white supremacy, they have power to effect their will. So they can subdue what part of the world they want to subdue. They can impose themselves on what part of the world they want because they have the power to do so. But do we have the power to resist them? If we recognize that we need African schools, can we build those schools? Because that will demonstrate that we have power. It's not thinking it and talking about it. It's actually doing it, making it happen. That demonstrates, yes, we have power. And it starts in the mind. If we don't have the mental orientation and the spiritual orientation, it will not happen. And I started out the way I did by outlining the great wealth that we have on the African continent. And I reminded our people that we were rich in land, but we are also rich in body, we are rich in mind, and we are rich in spirit. But if we are not in ownership and control of that mind, body, and spirit, we cannot control the land. And if we don't control the land, we cannot access the wealth of the land to promote, preserve, and protect our interests as a people. So that is what we have to work towards. We have to be Garveyite. We have to be Garveyist. In our, I'm gonna say Garveyist, it's got to become an obsession with us almost, as it was with Papa Garvey. He slept 4 or 5 hours a night because he was always thinking about what's his next move to empower his people, to liberate his people, to strengthen, to build, to add value to what we had already developed and what we had already gained. So this has got to be our work. This has got to be our thinking 24/7. And when Brother Thomas talks about our divinity and recognizing and realizing and manifesting that divinity, that is so profound. That is so profound. because there is a reason why we were chosen as the first people of the first land, the wealthiest land on earth. But we've got to ask ourselves, why are we enduring this enormous paradox of being the most impoverished people on the earth? I didn't say the poorest. I said the most impoverished. To say we are the poorest people is to suggest that's a natural state of being. To say we are impoverished is to suggest that we have been subjected to conditions that are separated us from our natural human and material wealth. And when I talk about our human wealth, brothers and sisters, we have the capacity to do great and glorious things. We've done it in our history. You look at the pyramid that we chiseled out of solid rock, a huge colossus that we chiseled out of solid rock. Measure of human magnificence doesn't require to even conceive of something like that, let alone produce it. We built the Great Pyramid that has 2.3 million stones. You didn't hear me? 2.3. Who thought of that? Who thought that up? Whose idea was that? We were thinking big. We were thinking great. You see, African culture is characterized, or the African way is characterized by high culture and deep thought. Look throughout our history, you will see our ancestors engaging in high culture and deep thought.
And we're going to have to come back to that as well. Brother Leader, I so don't want to cut you. We are 5 minutes away from the top of the hour, Leader. Wow, wow, wow. It's just gone by so quickly again today. My Leader, you know, I'd be honored to have you back again, you know, to talk to the family when you have some free time. Please do let us know. The door is always open for you. And, you know, the learning is just phenomenal. Brother Jammers, as you've been seeing through the chat, people are calling on you, my brother, to have some classes. Yeah, they're calling on you to maybe do some Zoom online classes. So, you know, Brother Leader, I will put your contact details under this video as well in response to the requests in the group for more information about how you can be contacted as well. Everyone's saying, you know, the contribution, Brother Leader Bandaka, fire, you know, and what say you, Brother Jammers, about requests for classes?
Yeah, we're working on that as we speak. So in 2021, we'll be having some classes, and I'll hopefully next time we have the session, I'll put up some information on that. I wish this was a football match, so Brother Madaka could have went into extra time, because he's touched on this is the real deal. This is what it's all about. The whole plan is to stop us getting back into our consciousness, getting back in tune to our divine nature, and having that connection. This place is called Britain. The last 4 letters of the word Britain is tain, a holding device. This is the place, be retain. So this is the place that constructs all the rights that hold us down. The rights that hold us down is this. Law is a belief system. Law is a belief system. The reality is we can tap into our divine nature and manifest that into this realm. The mind has the ability to transport time, space, dimension, and bring it back and manifest it here. They've intercepted that by giving us a belief system. A route is where you drive. If you know your route home, you can get back home. A tree without roots will only be leaves. And leaves have no roots. So they've given us belief system, and what the belief system does, it takes us away from being in tune with our divine consciousness, and it puts us into a state of fantasy. And the problem is some of us never come back from that fantasy, you know, and they believe of their senses and don't come back. So this is what Brother Bandaka is touched on. And this is what the real deal is. They're trying to stop us getting back in tune when we used to be able to do telepathy, we used to be able to manifest, have the thoughts and visions of the pyramids, of the culture, the star system. And this is how everything is resetting now, and they know this. This is why they're getting desperate to try and stop us from making that connection, but the connection's already happening. So yes, thank you, Bandaka and Sister Shanice, and the family. The classes will be there in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. To everyone in the chat, to all of the knowledge that you've been dropping in the chat as well, we thank you so much. And as Brother Leader was saying and reminding us, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, he would study for 5 hours every night. We've got to study to get back to our higher mind of learning. We had a mindset that, you know, we can't even begin to fathom right now, because we were seeing things in the stars that they can't even see through the most powerfulest microscopes today. So, wow. We are 30 seconds from the top of the hour. I can't even give any more time to anyone to come back, but other than to say thank you all so much. Brother Leader, it's been an honor and a pleasure, an amazing address today. Thank you so much, my brother. It's been an honor. Brother Jammers, thank you so much, an absolute honor. One love, family. To everyone in the audience, please hit the like button on the way out. Thank you all so much for staying with us. More love, more power, and on behalf of Dr. Aboo, who had to leave, more vudum and 100 apologies from Prophet he sent as well. One love, family. One love.